Hi everyone. Okay, part 2, everything's coming up green for the Irish. I want to start by showing you some of the saves that I have done. I am going to do the numbering and the storage folders that I have made in a separate video because this all is beginning to run together. I don't want to be too confusing for anyone. First of all, I just wanted to show you, this is what I had talked about when I said if you get the dies and you decide to use them, save the erroneous cuts that you make, or if you've had a problem with something and it didn't do just right, like I forgot one of these someplace. It was a perfectly fine die, and I just cut the edge right off of it right here, and I thought, well, what did I do that for? But that's a good size to save, and I did. Now, I also found something else to do that I don't know if you'll like this or not. I'm not sure. This is, oh, what is it? I always want to say Mylar. Is this Mylar? Hold on just a minute. Let me look at my little notepad here. Well, that's kind of what it is. They call it plastic sheeting, Mylar, anything. Anyway, it is what you put in front or behind the shaker frame to make sure that the things stay inside and you treat it. And I have a piece that I've cut little squares out of and little butterflies and stuff where I made shaker things. And of course this is, I think it's 8 by 10, 8.5 by 11, something like that. But anyway, I went ahead and cut that out. Now I'm going to bring it close to the lens because I don't know if you can see the edges or not, but can you see where they cut right along? If I get it over that black, it's not so bad, is it? Let's try that. See, that worked out pretty good. And I like this because I thought, okay, I can just go ahead and punch a hole in that and put them on a key ring, and then take a permanent marker and put a number on it. That wasn't exactly what I had in mind for it, but I think that's pretty durable. I tried to break it and I didn't crumple it up, but you know, if you got a winning streak, go with it. Anyway, I'm just saying that that might be something you'd rather do and have in your drawer than the paper. The paper I am fond of because I really get a feeling of what I'm doing. You know, get it in that paper and let's see. Now, before we start on the book itself and we go over page by page and I tell you exactly what's on that page, let's talk about the spine. Now, the last time we did the spine, I'm going to open the little book up. If you'll remember, we went ahead and did the normal spine that we have done with Country Craft Creations on almost everything that we've done because this is the way we learned it. We know that it stays together and we like it. I'm trying to find the... Let me see if I can bring you in just a little bit closer because I want you to be able to see. Well, no, that's not it. Let's go down a little bit. Okay, now, what I've done on this one is exactly the same thing that I did last time, and that is just like this one, and that is I've cut 4 flaps to be my spine. Now, let's talk about how we decide the width of our spine with these dies. Okay, when you are making anything with any of these dies, usually the cover is going to be one of the non-cutting edge dies in our set. So this is number 1, and this is the one that I like just about the most. And I'm going to raise you up again so you can see. Okay? And by the way, I've been putting these little tags on them with tape and paper, and they haven't come off yet. It's pretty good. Anyway, this is my number 1. Let's say that this is what I use this one most of the time. This one number 1. This is not the cutting edge, right? This is not the cutting edge going this way because we're going to turn it around and we're going to cut it for that way. So we're going to leave, I usually say let's leave 2 inches on each side. But what if we've got tons and tons? Remember the one that I had, my die was like 5 inches? And what I did was I made these and then I just added to them and added to them. But had I cut this too short on the end of the die, I would have really been in trouble, because this is that non-cutting edge, and I said, you know what, I can squeak that through there and I'll just make it. So let's do that, and I'll use that. Well, here's the problem. When you cut this too small, you better be sure that you've got another one that's large enough, because you're going to have to put those two together in some way. Now, on these dies, this, well, that's not a good pointer. Let's point with something you can see. This edge, let's get it up, where the die cutting edge changes into just the creasing edge, is where that comes together right there. That last cut, where this line comes in and that line comes in, that is as wide as you are going to want to make your spine. Okay, now this one, for instance, is, let's clear a little space so we'll have some room, and I'll put that right there, and we'll get this ruler. This is 3 1/2 inches. Okay, so my paper is 3 1/2 inches, so I'm in good shape. I can't make it any wider than where that comes together right there on my paper. If I try to do that, like cut it out or whatever, that will not be presentable. It's going to be awful, awful, awful. So in the past, I've told you to do this. Now this is going to depend on how wide your paper is, okay? But let's say that we're going to do this little book, and we only want to have just a little bit of spine in that book. We don't want to have that big old spine. So first of all, what we're going to do is we are going to trim this piece back to where the die quit cutting. Okay? Now you see, if I cut it way out here and in and something, and I want to make it better or whatever, I'm either going to have a piece come jutting down here that's terribly unattractive, or I'm going to have a big wing thing out there that's not going to hold anything. Alright, so here's what I've got. Now, I always like to trim in just a little bit, because you got to have a little bit going in, because this one's straight. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that I am going to put a 2-inch spine or a 1.5 inch spine on this piece. Why is it when you need a pencil you can't find a pencil? If I need a pen, I never have. Here's one. Sit here and gripe and found what I needed, didn't I? Okay, let's go with the 1.5 inch spine. Let's just say that we have a 1.5 inch spine. Okay, I'm going to measure 1.5 there, and I'm going to measure 1.5 here, and I'm just going to kind of mark it, because Kim Holtz made these big old long scissors from here to wherever I can aim it and get there. Okay, now we're going to put those one over the other. The one that's widest goes over the other, and you always plan that. Don't just kind of knot. Okay, now I'm going to show you. That's 2 inch. Now, how long is this? This is 12. Looks like about 13. Well, I don't know. Just use this ruler they provide on this mat. Oh, this says I'm starting at 2, so I'm going to minus 2. I'm 13 inches. 13 1/2 inches on this one. Well, darn it, that won't work, so I can't cut that in one piece. But look what happens. If I go down a size, and let's say I'm going to make a smaller book, not the largest die, but a smaller book, and I go down from a 1 to a 3, look how much smaller that is. And so here we go. Let's say that I'm going to do another 2-inch spine. This is only 5 inches. So 5 and 5 are 10, and 2's 12. I can take a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and I can lay my die right on the edge, take that down, cut it, and you're not going to cut any of this, you're going to cut across, You're going to run that through the die cutter. I mean, your die cutter. Okay? Now, can you see my fingers are here and here? That is only 5 inches, so I'm okay. So then I'm going to turn it around after I cut this off, and I'm going to put it right on the edge here. That's 5 inches. 5 inches. Now, what's it done? I've got a 5-inch cut here, a 5-inch cut here, and I have a 2-inch spine. So I have one piece of paper that's my front and my back. So what would I do? Well, instead of having 2 pieces of paper that go on the inside like this one do to line that if I want lining, I'm going to cut another one of those down here that's exactly like the one I cut above, and I'm going to take those 2 solid pieces and put them together and make one long one for the outside and one long one for the inside, thereby making the paper with fewer cuts, fewer seams, fewer weak places in it, so I don't have to worry so much. Now, there is another thing that you can do with that, and we need to talk about it just a little bit because we haven't done that very much, and I have not been one to do that a whole lot. So let's go with this. Let's say that these aren't here. I wish they weren't, because but let's just say that we're doing a little informal book, and it's not, we don't want to do all that spine business, and you know what, it's real cute, but whatever. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut my pieces, and then I am going to score them with my handy dandy scoreboard, and here I'm going to draw a line so you can see what I'm doing, so you won't think I'm lost my mind. Let's say that I'm going to score right here, okay? Alright. Now, I'm going to fold that. Remember we had the question online about the different kind of, the L, making an L spine. What you're going to do, it can't be this one because this is too big, but what you can do is you're going to glue that right there on top of a blank spine. Let's pretend this is the inside. We can get it done this way and you'll understand even more. Now, the reason it's not fitting here is because this is too wide. But let's just pretend that we have made the booklet out of this size die. This is graduated down, this isn't, obviously. But let's just say you put one here and one next to it, one next to it, one next to it. You can do one close. I always like to have a little bit of space front and back, so I'll do one this way, and then I'll do another one. However far you turn, or you score, and then turn that to the L, is the distance between your pages. Okay? Now, if you do that, be really sure that you get them in there real stable, because on the regular spine, like this, you have it to adhere on both sides. But on this spine, you only have that one little bit right there, and I don't mean that to say that it won't stay. Don't get me wrong with that. It will. But that way you have here. Now, this also gives you about 1/2 inch between each page. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? But when we get to 4, you can't turn it around like that, because then you're going to have no space between, and you got to have some space. So you're going to have to do it this way. But what you don't want to do is back it up directly to your crease underneath right here, because you don't want it to be so tight that this page doesn't lift up. See, that's so tight. I'm going to hold that where it really would be. That's too close, and it's over the edge of that, so you have to allow for that when you put in your book together, so you don't get it so tight. In other words, you might want to crease that one at the 1/4 mark instead of the 1/2 mark. Okay? Now, one other thing I want to tell you. When you're making your covers and you're allowing for this, okay? We're cut, and we've got all that paper coming off the edge. Let's pull our paper back up like we had it. When you are allowing for this, and you get ready to do your spine, on the inside. Regardless, you know that you have to, and it doesn't do any good to cut this one in like that. It's just not, I did on some of mine trying to learn how to do this, and it didn't work as well because when I brought that page up and then I brought this page up, it didn't always hide the pages behind this. So sometimes I will step down one size. If I'm normally doing a 1, I'm not going to do my pages exactly a size 2. I may go to a size 3 to do some of my pages so that they do not stand up above the top and the bottom. I don't know, there's nothing worse to me. Now, if you want to have ribbons hanging out and all those little cute tags, all that stuff, that's totally different. But if this is my book and my pages of my book are hanging down below my cover, that doesn't work for me. So you just step down a size with your dies and it does that for you. The other thing is, let's say that you need some large pictures in here and you decide, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use that 1 because my cover's big enough. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to use that 1 and 2 because I want those big pictures on my book. Okay, that's all right. Now, do not add any length to these pieces that you cut that do not have the non-cutting edge. If you add to this, when you put it in this book, it's going to be overly tall. It's going to be too big. So, see how this just fits? Where that curve is, would you just mind getting on the paper like we talked about earlier? There we go. If you put this right there, it fits so nicely, and that's what's going to happen when you put this edge with its mate over, you've cut it in the paper, and you're going to put it over your spine like this. 1 there, and pretend this is the same size, and 1 there. Then you're going to be good. But if you try to add, if you use this size, you're going to have to cut that off. You cannot add to the end of this and expect it to fit there because it's not going to work. So don't think that just because your cover, front or back, has what you think is an extension. Don't underestimate the length of those. I hope that wasn't confusing. What I'm trying to say is, if I get this right here, and I look at the die that is the cover die, and I flip that up, and I think, ooh, I need some additional paper there so it'll go over that spine. No, you don't need additional paper on the end of your die to go over the spine. It'll show. Okay, now we've talked about those. And if you have not marked these dies, or if you have marked these dies, I'm going to tell you that tonight's directions will be using the system that we talked about. If you've not been with us before and you don't know what I am talking about, I'm going to tell you right now. We decided to number and name these. I decided. Because it's easier to number them and follow the directions using that number than it is to measure them each and every time you use them. It's just that simple. You will get very accustomed to what size they are. You will get accustomed to what size goes with it and what fits with it and what doesn't. One more thing I'm going to tell you as we look at these, because I can't even get them on there. It's real simple at times. Now this is 1 through 10, okay? But it's real simple because we use these dies a lot. We use what I call the lace or the decorative dies. We use these an awful lot when we use these because this is what we add for decoration. Why? Because we know it's going to fit. We don't have to measure them each time. They're going to work together. That's just the way it is. But if you will look at these, this 1, 2, I think there are only 2 or 3 like this in this set, and I'm not real sure, so we'll have to look. But anyway, that couldn't be mistaken, but this one might could. Do you see, where is the die for this one? Here, let's get this one. Well, these are my, this is my other set. First of all, My sets are not. They're kind of crazy. But here's what I'm trying to show you. Let's cover that up again so it's not confusing. When you are looking at these dies, the ones that I call the lace dies are cutting edge to the inside, dots to the outside. When we're talking about the memory keeper dies, or these that we have numbered, the cutting edge is to the outside, the dots are to the inside. How did I learn this? Because I made a book the other day and it took me an hour and a half to figure out what in the world was wrong, that die that I had mistakenly put over in the wrong stack didn't fit in my book, and I did everything but turn cartwheels. Then I figured it out. So when you put your dies up, when you get ready and working on them, remember that little hint and it will help you a whole lot, because I was just so mad at myself when I looked at that. I thought, well, that's the dumbest thing you've done all day. But if I didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't learn anything. So it's better that I made mistakes and got some. Now, I want you to grab a pencil and a paper, if you will. I'm not guaranteeing that I will ever write these down, but I will give them to you so there will be no doubt in your mind how to do this book if you want to do your pages this size. I don't think you're going to want to do a St. Patrick's book this close to Christmas, but if you bought one of those really great surprise box things that Tamara has, you might have gotten some paper in there that's off season or something else, and hey, well, you've got nothing to lose. These are darling. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the largest die, and it's going to be number 1. We're going to go all the way down to number 10, and that is the smallest die. Okay? By the way, I wanted to show you before I get all the way into that, I'm going to show you something. On the back of this one, let's see if I can get to the camera. Can you see that outline? That piece right there is kind of shiny, and that's because that's from the cover of the cardstock that I was using. And this, I just thought this came out so cute, is this die with the one just above it. No, this one. There. That one. And this one. And the reason I did it that way is because I had to have one that would cut an outer edge on both, and both of these were outer edge cutters. But that's a cute use of your dies. It made a neat little outside corner, and this is going to be by the sea. It's got shells and stuff in it, and you almost have to have something sometimes kind of nondescript on these, or you get them kind of crazy. So, okay, here we go. You ready? Got a pencil in hand, and here we go. The cover, front and back, are both cut 4 pieces with the extension of 2 inches on each end, like this. Just exactly like this, same size, same everything. And this excess is 2 inches. Now, if you're not sure, one of the things about these dies is you have to almost decide how many pages you're going to have in advance. And I will be perfectly honest with you, I made every page in this book before I ever decided how many pleats I would need in my spine. So that's a thought. And I'll tell you why I like it. It gives me enough room when I start doing the spine that I haven't crowded my pages up. Maybe you already know what you want on every page. That's good, because then you know when you get ready to make your spine exactly where to go. Now, if you're not familiar with the spine die cut, there is a coverage of that in the first video that I did. If you'd like to check it, it's right there. Now we're going to cut 4 pieces just exactly like this, using 4 pleats in our spine. So we're going to need that 2-3 inches here. Let's see, we've got 4 pleats on this one, and I believe I measured this one at, yes, I did. I measured it at 2, a little bit over. So I'm going to tell you that if you measure this one, cut them at 3. And I'm sorry to change that, but it just dawned on me. Because sometimes when you're doing this and you're laying them all in there, you're going to make the spine yourself, but like this one, see on the edge where I did that, and the only reason it looks bad is because I cut my paper crooked, but I decided to keep my spine off of the outside flaps. I didn't want it on my back or front cover at all. I wanted that cover to close around it so that I had a nice straight edge, and that little lift by putting that, well, the word that comes to mind is shamrock, and that's not the right word. By putting the medium weight chipboard in the center under this spine, that really cleans that and makes it a nice look, because this is the only place that I used any chipboard at all, is underneath the spine. Again, because it's, you know, it's the weakest point. It's carrying the weight of the entire piece. So those 4 pieces are all going to be out of cardstock, and you know that my recommendation is the cardstock from Country Craft Creations, simply because I think it's the best. And if you want to go to www.countrycraftcreations.com, that is the store. She's just revamped it. It's really got a nice layout. It's the Artisan Cardstock. Comes in kind of a jean blue, navy blue, dark blue, light blue, beautiful green, maroon, red, Christmas green, ivory, black, white. I think those are all the colors, but go look. And then if you want something really, really colored, look for the other line of that she carries in stock, and it will be there for you too. And I've forgotten the name of it all of a sudden because my mind's gone. Okay, let's go. So on the covers, now we're going to put the little bit of, this is my, last time, remember we had a Coca-Cola box, a cereal box and a Coca-Cola box. These are just off the back of the papers, and they're fine. They will work fine in there. Now I creased that. Don't confuse what I do to show you with what it needs to be. It needs to be solid. Another thing I'm going to warn you against, and you probably know this, and you think, how dumb does she think I am? I don't. I've just made so many mistakes in learning how to do things that I want to keep you from doing it. I got a box the other night, and it was, let's just say that the cardboard was a Coke box, okay? And it was like glued like this, like part was on top of the other one. You don't use that. And I'll tell you why. Because even though this is excellent cardstock that we're using, it's still, you can feel it through it, and it still is thicker in that one spot than it is the other. You want that to be a real smooth surface underneath that, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to, the spine, and I always do 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. You do that over and over and over. You start with 1/2 inch, you end with 1/2 inch. So if you don't have a spine die, and you want to make one like we normally do, where you just take your cardstock and you go directly to your scoreboard, start at the width you know you're going to, or you can, you know what, you can do it like this. You can do one long one and then cut it, excuse me, hiccups, cut it in half, and you've made 2 at one time. 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. That works a lot better. Okay, make your spine, put your spine, put your piece of chipboard down, and I'm going to tell you what I did. I covered my spine with the same paper that's on the inside of my covers, because it's not a very thick paper, and I kind of wrapped it around it on the edges so that it would be nice. And then I used my standby, which is it's vintage photo, and I antique the edges of it just a little bit, and then I glued this on top of it. Now make sure you get this gusset in the center of your spine. You've glued that down. Okay, now we're going to start with the cardstock, and we're going to start with the cutting. Now the dimensions and the sizes that I'm going to give you, all you have to do is take those, make the decisions on how you want your paper to go in order. Some books, most books, if they're a book and not just excuse me, individual sheets, sorry, then they will kind of follow in line, like one page matches this, page 1 matches page 2, matches page 3, matches page 4. They all are kind of printed and bound in order of how they work well together. That isn't always true, but a lot of times it is true. So you can use that and say, okay, I'm going to cut my covers out of 1, and I'm going to go to my first couple of pages with 2 and 3, etc. If you want to look at your papers beforehand, what I'm telling you is to kind of decide how you're going to lay this out. It doesn't take 5 minutes to do this. And if you want to do it as you cut, that's your business. You can do that, of course. I'm just thinking, let's put all these dies up here. Let's get them cut. Let's get it done. We can make this book in a shorter period of time than if you have to do what I've done all of my scrapbooking like. I don't know. Do I like that? Well, let me go get some coffee and I'll think about it. Well, 2 hours later, I'm still deciding what to put on the page. We want to get this made. It's cute. Let's do it. So that's why I suggest that. That is something that's a personal thing for me. You can look at it for 40 days and 40 nights if you want to. I'm just saying, if you decide to do the colors and how you want your pages to go, you may decide it as you go. But cut all this first, because we're not measuring anything. We're going to use number 4 for our front and our back. We're going to use the excess of at least 2 inches on each of our front and back as our spine. You may choose to do your spine any way you want to, but I've given you the instructions on that. So when we start doing this, what we have is the first little flap. So let's go with, oh, by the way, don't go over 3.5 inches on each side of that spine, or you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff. I'm trying to make sure that I haven't left out anything as we go along, because I wrote notes this time. Isn't that nice? Okay. Now, pages 1 through 4, and remember, I only did 4 pages. They may have 2 sides, and I counted 8 places or 10 places to put my cardstock, my artist cardstock. But what these are the designer, not artist, but designer. Okay, so the inside of the covers all have number 2. Well, 1, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces. Outside and inside, we have 4 pieces that will be cut with number 2. 2 inside front is the next thing. Inside front, 1 outside back. Okay. Now we're going to go to the flaps. Here's another thing. I think I counted this. If you cut 1, 2, 3, 4. If you cut 5 pieces, you can cut 1 in half by laying your die down. And let me show you how you do that. I'm just going to take this die, and I'm going to take a piece of paper that I have cut. I'm going to fold this up, pretend that. And I'm going to take it, and I'm going to lay it right. The best way is to lay it right above those 2 extensions in the very center of your paper. Okay, so I'm going to lay that either this way and have it dip like this does. See how that dips down right there? If I put that back there, it may be easier for you to see. I don't know. I like that look. Or you may want to do it this way and have the little bump come up. Have the little extension come up. Either way you do it. So that's why I said 5 pieces. Sorry. Okay. Put those in a stack and mark them where they go. And I just go 1, 2, 3, 4 down the page, or lay them, 1. But that's up to you because everybody has their own thing on that one. Okay, now we're going to do 2 flaps on the inside of the front cover. Now these are number 3. Okay, I'm going to cut 1, come on, baby, 2. Now I cut these of the ivory cardstock. Okay, because I wanted it to match the way the cover did. And you can see that everything's outlined in ivory. So these have the cardstock in the center with the colors on the outside. Okay, 2 flaps on the inside of the front cover, 2 number 3s, leaving half an inch. Sorry, I'm on the next page. I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay, now pages 1 through 4, cut with number 2. Designer cardstock, cut 3 covers, 4 covers, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. Okay, 1 outside back, so that's going to be 8 pieces of designer paper for 4 pages front and back. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and yeah, 7, 8. Okay, then I've got 9, 10, 11, 12. So you're going to have 12 total, but be sure that you're using that number 2 die. So number 2, 12 times. On the inside front cover, 2 number 3s, leaving half an inch at the edge to enable you to glue it to the next one up. So we're going to use a number 3 die, and right here where it doesn't cut, we're going to measure a half an inch, and we're going to leave a half an inch there. That leaves us a half an inch to glue underneath the paper on the one that it's attaching to. So don't put any designer paper on those until you get those together. Now 2 flaps on the inside front cover are these 2, and I'm going to fold them and fold them again. And 4 number 4 pieces of designer paper for these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's number 4. That's number 4 die. Okay. Now, we've already talked about cutting this one because I gave you the 8, 10, 12 thing. The general rule of thumb here really is to cut these pockets the same size with the same size die that you cut the page paper. Okay? Because you want that to fit all the way around that page if at all possible. There are some differences in some of mine simply because I was using like little scraps and stuff, and I wanted to be sure that I had all of them. But this pocket die for the decorations, hold on just a minute. Yeah, this is number 1. 1 inch die cuts, hearts. There are 6 1-inch die cut hearts to make the 3-leaf clovers on the edges of the pocket. The pocket, again, I told you that's cut lengthwise instead of the other way. Now, see, the other times I've been going like this and I'm cutting across here. But this time I'm going to lay, and sometimes you have to go with a larger die. I'm going to lay it this way. And I went down, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to lay it this way. Like that. And I'm going to run that through my die machine. And this is going to cut this, leaving this a little deeper than this one. But you know what? What if I get to a small page and I want that piece? So don't throw those away. There'll be pockets for you in another location. Okay. Now this one, of course, this is just, I didn't tell you about little discs or anything. That's just me doing that. But I did tell you about the little what's these? And these are the cut aparts. You know that. Now, on any of these, I didn't explain that to you. On any of these at all, and this one I didn't glue. And I can't, you know, I didn't glue it, and now I can't get my finger in there again like I did a while ago. You can leave that end open on any of these so that you can go in with a tag or whatever you want to. But I'm going to warn you, when you're gluing this together, see how closely this comes in? You don't have this area. So in your own mind, think that this is all the space I have. There, and from there up. That's how wide your tag has to be, so you have to allow for this area not to be usable for you, okay? No big deal. And don't think you can cut one of these and go in because you can't get it past the lip of the page. You want to be really sure you don't do that. I had a darling little thing made the other night, and it would just, I don't know where it went. I think it's in the trash because it didn't work. Okay, on page 2. Da-da! This is our plain page. We cut at the corner top. This is just a little, this is 1 inch across the longest part of the triangle. And then I just did it by hand. I didn't have a die or anything. There's no need to have a die on this one. So you're just going to cut a little triangle and put it in the upper left-hand corner. I told you about the stamps that this was done with. We've already cut the background paper. You decorate it however you want to, and you slide this little cut apart right up in there. And that's my little heart. We're going to do that in there. Now, on page 3, we've already got these 2 pieces of cardstock glued together. So this die, I think I told you this is from Crafter's Companion. This is an edge die. An edge die, if you're not familiar with the term, means that it does not cut at the bottom. It is exactly like this. If I put this like this, it will cut on the side, it will cut on the top, but it's not going to cut on the bottom. So what you do is you should just take your die and turn it around and look. See? Fits right on that page just like that was. Now, I do have 1/4 inch on each side, and I told you about the Mylar in the center a while ago. So that's why I use that. I think that's really pretty. It kind of looked Celtic to me. I don't know if you guys know what that meant. It's just, I don't know why I did. Maybe it's just a thing. This page, we did not cut. And see, I told you, take the piece that you cut, and somebody told me I did that wrong, but that's okay. Take the piece that you cut for this, like the solid that's here, and I cut the, this is ivory. This is not designer paper. This is cardstock. I used the ivory on it because I wanted something to show through all this lattice, and if I'm not mistaken, let me see what number that is. Let's see. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3. This is page 4. Okay. Now, I did the small, medium, and the large. Now, that's these 3 dies out of what I call the lace dies. And 3. And that's how I got that pattern. But there's no cutting edge out here. Wow. So what I have to do is go back and retrieve the die that goes around the outside of that one. So this one cut took all 4 of those dies, but it turned out so pretty. I really liked it. So it's going to be the outer edge cut, the large, the medium spaced just a little bit evenly, and the smallest one in the center. Now that's how that was cut. Boy, if you're not making good use of your dies using 4 at one time, that's pretty good. That's a really pretty cut on there too. I thought that was really pretty. This page, and I like those because they're pretty when you look at the book, and if you want to put an entire picture on that whole page, you can. The next page is page number 5, and page number 5 we did the following. We did the papers cut with number, let me grab number 2. Number 2 was the two papers. The one that covers that backs up to the other designer paper. Then we cut one more number 2. It's kind of big, but it's covered. Now, we didn't glue that around all over. Remember, I just glued part of it. So glue a little bit of the curve around the bottom all the way. Glue it all the way to the spine. No, don't glue it there. You got to glue that to the spine, and then glue around the edge, and that leaves you a nice opening. See, that'll hold a lot of stuff. And then so that's your number 2. Then the next one was a number 3 that I've got on the table someplace. Well, just so you know, it's a number 3, because that's what's important, is that that's a number 3. And with a number 3, we're going to cut one piece. We're going to cut 2 number 2s, 1 number 3, and 1 number 5. Now, if I were you, I would measure after my pages are glued together, because of course these are glued on this little one is glued down except for the top. This one is glued except for the side, and it is glued on that inside because it doesn't have to be part of your spine. I mean, be part of the, well, it is. It has to glue to the flap on your spine. So you're going to want to wait until those are already dried and ready, and then you measure accordingly to what size. And what I did was take my little dies, and I just went, does that fit? Yeah. Does that fit? Yeah. Nope, that doesn't fit. I have to get another one. So that's what I did. I measured my dies as I went along, and I chose these sizes. By the way, they fit, but I chose these sizes. Sorry, but I chose this size for these after they were already together. Now, I think I showed you how to make this. And do you see this? Does this look familiar? I just took the piece that I had left over from this one. I turned the die back on it because I still, again, I wanted the little scoop. I did not want the up. Then I just cut down, and I made it a little bit shorter than normal, but that's okay because it's a little small piece. So here's what I did. That's that. This is just a banner die, and you don't have to put that on there. You can use any die in the world that you want to, or you don't have to use one. You could just use those. I did again use the little 1-inch die for the 3 hearts for the clover there and there. So that's 6 on this page. Now this part is a number 2 die. No. Next page. Sorry. Number 4. That's a number 4 die. Cut 2 of those out of the same paper. No, wait a minute. I gotta get it in my hand so I can show you. I cut 2 of those out of the same paper. I glued them together, but I glued up to where it starts to go straight at the top. That just leaves you a little wiggle room when you're trying to get inside of it, because it doesn't always allow you to drop in there whatever you want to. Remember, I took the little punched my little bottom of the heart out. I glued the picture on, and then I glued this on top of it, and then you can write on it or not. And then if you'll remember, this is only attached, I put glue on it. Look what I was doing. I only attached it at the very bottom to allow you picture this way, and then whatever you want to put inside. Again, you can leave these open in between them and put photo cards in there. Yeah. All right. Now this is the only one that has anything that's not just normal to it. But it's going to be really easy, because I'm going to try to tell it to you easy. Okay, let me go. We are going to cut 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with our number 4. Let me grab it. It makes it so much easier when you've got the number. These are number 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have cut 5 number 4s. Those are all the same color. I guess you could make those any color you want to. You know, if Christmas time, it'd be beautiful if one was red, one was green, and one was white. Then you backed it opposite. I mean, it'd be gorgeous. But anyway, I'm just telling you that's the size that we used on this one. Now, also cut 4 pieces of matching cardstock, 1.5 by 1/2 inch. Glue those strips between the cards on the 2 that are loose. In other words, the 2 flaps that are going to fold, you're going to glue those in between before you glue them together. Make sure that that you allow enough space. I mean, I think I told you a while ago, glue them on there when they're wet so that they can move if they have to, or you can get it off if you have to, if you get it a little bit too tight. And that simply allows you to pull up and down, and it's comfortable. You know, it's not binding in any way, and you don't want that to bind. I could tell you all night long. This is just the same decoration that we've been doing again. See, that's just a little flap that I've cut off from one of the other papers, and I didn't want to waste it, so I made a little pocket. And here's another little pocket. You just put those in. This is the perfect size. You know those old developers that everybody's buying? I can't remember who they're made by, but they're like 3 by 3. There's nothing better. Now, this is if you want to put this. What I'm trying to think of is I've got 1, 2. This is a pack, by the way, this is the one I just cut in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I open the ends of these up and let them be open, they could be 6 and 7. That's how many of those small photos that would fit in there. Now that's a lot for one page in a little book like this. Okay. Now the next page, we didn't do anything but use the decorations on the paper. So there's no measurement for me to give you for anything here, except this is just kind of do your own thing. That's what it amounts to. Now let's see. You can glue these closed, by the way. You don't have to leave them open so that you can put something in them. But if you're going to glue them, leave them open, be sure that the right-hand pages, you leave the right side open. The left-hand pages, you leave the left side open. Because there is nothing worse than trying to do this. You can't get it out. Take those pages off. Hold that book up, and then by that time you're going crazy. Another thing is to turn to the last of this. Be sure that after you're finished, you go back and cover your bare spots on your spine with just little snippets of paper that you have. Now this is our last flap. That flap is also I believe it's a size 4. And you're going to do a just one solid card. You're going to go to your scrap paper that's left, and you're going to find enough to cut that die one more time out of a print or another solid, however you're working with color, and then make yourself a little pocket on the back of the single flap that is now the flap to the back page. This one, all I did was I used the number 4, the number 5 on top of it, and the smallest of the lace. There's a name for this in sewing. It's not picot. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, the open edged die. That's why I call them the lace dies. I don't remember it. So we've got a number 4, a number 5, and then this one over in the other side. And I don't remember the number of it over there because I haven't done that one yet on my own. That's bad. Now on the back of this, remember we just simply put in what we wanted to. That's no big deal. That's the pocket. And I just put the little cut about. What am I? Anyways, cut aparts there. Now here's another cut apart, and remember that I just did the little flower. You could do anything on this as long as you don't have a lot. See, I only have a 1/4 of an inch there that one's just going to flush really. So if I put a lot of flowers and lace and pretty trims, that's not going to close nicely, and I don't want to do that. I want this to lay nicely. So I did a little handmade flower with the button, and again, just laid a photo. This is also a perfect page. This would have been a great, I mean, for this, it's not a perfect page, but it's a perfect page for the technique of just taking half and doing another, you know, or you could even do the flip up and down. Anything that didn't take up a whole lot of room. Okay, now we're on the back page. I need a belly band, and I think I cut, let me measure. Yes. The ruler went to visit the scissors, and they got the tape while they were there. Here we go. We are going to say that this is 5 1/2 inches plus an inch and a half, so 7 inches. And here's what we did. We turned back 1/4 inch after this was made, and then we glued those. Okay? Glued it to the back of the silk card. And then I left my extra to make that little magnetic catch. This again is just, you know, wouldn't it be pretty if you were doing it in Christmas, those little poinsettias? I saw somebody bought them today. Sandy did, I think, and she put them on her work. Ooh, they were so pretty. Okay, this little card is well, it's, let me tell you what, you don't have to do it exactly like this, but here's what happened. This card is 9 7/8 inches long. It is 5/8. No. 4. Yeah, it is 3 5/8 inches wide. And you can do that, but let me tell you how I did it. And I wanted a piece of paper that would go, I always use the lowest point on my book to measure. So I measured from here to here. I could have added a little bit or taken away a little bit. I could have made it more, a little bit more narrow. I could have made it a little bit shorter. But I never go over the boundaries. And the boundary on this one, or the border on this one, is the edge of my designer paper. Okay, now on the inside, I'm going to tell you what, there are all kinds of tutorials on the internet that tell you how to make this little card. The most important thing that you can possibly do is get his little picture in there right. But let me pull these out and show you what this looks like. Now, most people will take a square, just a little, you know how when you make a banner, and everybody makes those that are so cute. Let me cut something for you. Well, let's cut this. We've already creased it. No, we don't want to. The thought of the lens is supposed to be, as the camera lens is opening, you're going to see this. Okay, so what they do is they measure half the distance, and then this goes up like this, and you cut this like this. Can you see this, or have I got it too much now? And I'm sure that somebody makes these a lot better than I do, but, and these pieces normally, come back here, look like this, and then if in your mind's eye you can see that opening up, that's like the camera opening up, right? You've got 2 of these, one on each side. Well, I used one of the dies, and I just put one in there until I could figure out what size I wanted, and I'm thinking I used the 8, but let me look. Number 8, did I use you? No, you're too small. No. That's number 7, so let's go with number 6, and you will win the prize. Number 6. Well, I'm so sorry. I ate that die. No, I didn't hear just. There we go. That's. Now. Yeah, well, maybe it had been unfair. Maybe it may have been the one just smallest. But here's what I did. I cut this the length, and then I added just a little bit on the end. And I guess I did this because I just wanted to use this again. I wanted to use these dies again. When you put this together, you have to make sure that one is completely on the top and one is completely on the bottom. You cannot have them overlapping at all, or it won't work. Now, see, mine are fighting a little bit because I didn't do that. Let's go there. when this opens up, it's just a little circle opening for us. You put this over there, and you put this where you want it. Would you stay there? And then you have glue on the back of this. And when you get this positioned where you want it, you have to have it just after that crease. It cannot be in that crease. It has to be up, because you have to, that can't bind. So you push this down and you rub this, and the glue that you have adhered to the back of your little flap will adhere itself, and when you do that, it just fits. It always fits. Now, I will recommend that you go find a really good video online, and I don't recommend anybody over the other, because they're all about the same and they all are excellent. I watched maybe 10, and I just caught I can't remember the name of the product, but there's someone there that kind of invented that, and I don't think it was her. I think it was her company. But anyway, now, here's what I'm going to do. That was the last page. That was the last that we did. I did cut 2 little strips for the front of that card, so it would carry the idea. I didn't make this for a picture to go on it, because I just didn't have really enough room, and I thought that to have a little lucky leprechaun at the end was kind of cute anyway. If you got a little tiny snapshot, like a passport, you know, you might have my little, put it on the back, it'd be kind of cute. Now, I am going to put these measurements on the front of this video at YouTube. So under the comment, before the comments and underneath what the description of the video, this setup directions will be there. I will not do it tonight. I will do it in the next couple of days. I hope that that you were able to take some notes, and that I was comprehensive enough this evening that you could understand what I was trying to say. And if you didn't get it, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Just write me and say, I don't know, but I got lost. Whatever you were doing, I didn't get it. I think that's everything. I think I've shown you what I wanted to show you. I think I explained the book to you well enough that you get the idea. And again, it doesn't have to be leprechaun books. It can be Christmas, and I think a Christmas book would be adorable. I will be back with you in about a week. And in that time, I will complete all 3 of the designer books, because I got some new ideas after looking at the ones that I had done, and I decided they weren't very pretty. I wanted to do pretty ones. So I'm going to do pretty ones this week. We'll put them in another cover and have that done for you. And you can get the directions and the measurements on that from me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some ideas for cards that are not as difficult as they're going to look like they are. We're going to do some fun things, and we're going to use these dies to give it a little bit of a flair. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for sitting with me. Thanks for coming back, and I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. I'll check back with you. Let me know if you need anything. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.